Now, we already know, come Wrath of the Lich King, every man and their dog is going to be engineering. And because of the way we play the game nowadays, you rarely have an actual gathering profession on your main class because you're trying to maximize the amount of damage that you can actually do. So normally the way to maximize this is have two crafting professions rather than a gathering and a crafting profession. So we know most people are going to be engineering and dual crafting or tailoring engineering, whatever it takes to be able to do the most DPS or the most healing or be the most efficient tank. So with this in mind, having no gathering at the start on your main and being able to max both your crafting professions without waiting to get to 80 and then start leveling your gathering class might not be something that people want to do. So I want to talk about a way, don't get me wrong, you're all going to be like, oh, but you can't do that on launch. You can do this on launch depending on the population on your server. But yes, some servers will find this more difficult than others. But you don't have to do it on launch. This is going to be useful even for your ults. But if you can do this at launch, I'd recommend it. So this is basically how you can get your rocket boost that goes on your boots, where you go really, really fast, and your glove enchant for your haste without actually using mining at all. Now, once you actually get to the point where you want to enchant the gloves to put the haste on, you will need somebody who's done mining or do mining yourself or whatever, because you'll just need some Saronite bars. But actually, you can get to the point of training these and get the other material needed for them as well, which is crystallized air, without actually mining anything. So first of all, I'm talking about the area next to Fizzcrank's airstrip, which is in Borean Tundra. Now, there's loads of mechanical mobs, and you can scavenge all of them as engineering to get things like volatile blasting triggers. Loads of handful of cobalt bolts, which are going to be the important ones. You get lots of trash that you can just vendor, so you'll make good gold, and obviously you're just grinding on mobs, so you're getting good XP as well. I'd done about 3/4 of a level just grinding on these just to see how long it would take to actually get my engineering to 400. Now, the things that you're going to make are cobalt frag bombs, which are only going to help you while you're leveling as well, remember, and these take a volatile blasting trigger, and 2 handfuls of cobalt bolts. Now, you can actually craft these all the way up to 390 before they go white, but they go green at about 382, which is about as far as you're going to want to go, because then you'll be able to make explosive decoys. Now, you do need some frostweave cloth, but just killing any humanoids that drop cloth, you're going to get a bunch of this anyway while you're leveling, and it only requires 1 frostweave cloth. Then it requires 3 of the volatile blasting triggers. Now, this doesn't go white until 395, so I would say craft these until 395, because while you're still grinding on these mobs, if you're then doing a bit of engineering as you go along, you're not actually using up any more cobalt bolts. So you can use these bolts on the diamond cut refractor scope. Now, this is actually orange still at 390 when you learn it, and it won't go green till 407. Now, the reason I say to actually make the explosive decoys all the way to 395 instead of switching over to the diamond cut refractor scope is because it needs a frost steel tube. Now, there is literally only one mob in the game that drops these. Now, these are not scavenged, they actually drop from the mobs, and it's the Scavenge Bot 004A8 and the Scavenge Bot 005B6. Both of these mobs are all around the airstrip, but it's a ludicrously low chance for them to drop. So if you was to grind here for like a full level, you shouldn't really expect any more than about 5. That's why it's going to be important to get to 395 with the explosive decoys, so you can then use the frost steel tubes that drop to be able to get to 400, and then at that point you've got your hyperspeed accelerators. Well, you haven't got them, but you can get the crystallized air, because also while you're running around here you'll see clouds to be able to mote extract to get various different crystallized waters, air, fire. So you'll need the Saronite bars obviously, but the crystallized airs you have got access to just by mote extracting gas clouds, which obviously show up on your mini-map, because the Zap Throttle mote extractor changes to this now, where of course you still extract gas from a nearby gas cloud, but just for it being in your bag, it shows the location of gas clouds on the minimap. Now, if you get lucky and get quite a lot of these frost steel tubes, or you maybe need to buy a few off of an engineer who's been doing mining at the same time, whatever, it's not going to be a huge cost to get an engineer to make you 5, 10 frost steel tubes, you know, whatever. But if you can just get these tubes yourself, drop in from these mobs because you're just grinding out a full level there or something like that, it's definitely going to be worthwhile. But again, if you got very lucky and you ended up with like 10 or 11 or something like that, if you get to 405 engineering, then you'll get your nitro boosts. And now nitro boosts can actually get you to 410 before they go white. So you'll have 5 points where they're green, but they only take volatile blasting triggers and a handful of cobalt bolts. And you'll probably have tons of these if you've been farming to get frost steel tubes. So I would say you can comfortably get to 410 just by doing some grinding and not worrying about mining. And remember, there are places you can go later on in the levels to get things like overcharged capacitors, which you will need for things as well. And actually, a little tip being thrown in for free as engineers, these overcharged capacitors are needed by everyone for a quest. So if you was to actually go to a higher level zone to do a bit of engineering, a bit of scavenging on mobs that do drop these, you could probably sell them quite expensive early on. If you just grind here, get your engineering high enough to be able to go and scavenge higher level mobs, then you can literally get these overcharged capacitors and probably sell them all day for the first couple of weeks at launch. Thought I'd just throw that in for nothing. But overall, while I know this won't work on every server at launch, it will work on every single character for the entirety of Wrath of the Lich King Classic. Because once it gets to the point where most people who are running around leveling are now only alts and the world isn't massively populated, you'll easily be able to just farm here for a level or 2 levels at a time on a new alt just to get all the engineering materials you want without having to worry about going around mining. This really does save a lot of time, because we know getting the cobalt ore and then turning it into bars is very time consuming, and it takes away from leveling. At least this way you're getting XP and doing your profession at the same time and making a decent amount of gold, because to be honest, these seem to have a very high drop chance for greens and even blues. And that's it. Be sure to like, subscribe, check out the new Rested XP guide for Northrend, links in the description below, and roll the outro. There's lots of ways you can support the channel to keep me here putting out World of Warcraft content and covering all future MMOs. Consider joining the channel as a member. You get access to emotes, everyone will know you're a member when you comment on future videos because you get a nice icon next to your name, and you get access to members-only videos, which I'll be putting a lot of on the channel throughout the year. Additionally, there's a Patreon link in the description as well. Thank you for watching all the way to the end, and I'll see you on the next one.